All right. It's a little dark. I'm a little dark. You want to turn on the third light?
Better.
It's a little bit better, right? Yeah, it was a little too dark on the face. Okay. All right. Well. The Best Boys Center Ice podcast back again. Hello. We are back. Episode
20 million.
We could call it 406 if we wanted to. Nobody would know.
We could, with the amount of times we've talked. Yes.
Yep. We're gonna get things going as we always do. We want to welcome everybody to the Best Boys Center Ice podcast. We're a day late. I literally had no voice yesterday, so I talked to Carson and we said, well, let's do
our Wednesday night episodes. Always are pretty good.
Yeah, the Wednesday night episodes a little later.
We have more time.
We have a little bit more time. So we want to, of course, just explain who we are. You know, there's a lot of people that are new to the Best Boys Center Ice podcast.
I'm Barry. This is Carson.
Other way around. I was first, then him. Carson is my son, and we've been talking hockey for years and years and years. Finally decided last year we were going to do a podcast. Thankfully, thanks to Shemaya Reed, we are on the Refocused Radio Network, which is a great network. Also features Rudy Campos Jr. and Sweep the League.
Yep.
And Rudy's got a great show. We got some more people coming on. I can't say anything yet onto the Refocused Radio Network, but check it out, refocusedradio.com or refocusedradio.com.
Yeah.
Our YouTube channel, Best Boys Center Ice Podcast. We still would love for you to subscribe. That is also available on the Refocused Radio Network and Spreaker. Tomorrow it'll be available via the podcast. On now that TikTok is back, I still do TikTok. I don't know if you're going to be doing more TikTok.
Maybe in a little bit. I haven't re-downloaded. I haven't really. I've kind of liked the free storage on my phone, so we'll see. I'll probably end up maybe later on doing it.
But we do post game as well. And today we're going to be, as we always do, we start out with.
I think we need to change it up because I feel like in the league there's been a lot that has gone on.
You're the boss. What are we doing?
Do you not agree that there has been a lot?
There has been a lot going on. The trade, which we're going to get into.
Yes.
We're getting close to the Four Nations tournament, and there's some the guy, I can't remember. Oh, now his name escapes me as to who's not going to play in the game.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, and then we talk about the trouble in Vancouver. But do you want to start with the trade?
I definitely want to start with the trade. However, that's not the one that I'm the most interested. So, all right, this is the trade, and probably one of the biggest in-season trades in the NHL in a long while. I saw some people say this is probably, probably the biggest in over a decade, if not more than that.
I saw that too.
This was insane. This trade, nobody expected it. Nobody heard of it coming, and all of a sudden on Friday night, just tweets were rolling out that it was rolling, and because of that, Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall are Carolina Hurricanes. Unbelievably quickly, the Avalanche ship him out. In return, they get Marty Necas, Jack Drury from Carolina, and 2 picks. And Chicago is also a team involved in this deal because Taylor Hall came from the Blackhawks. The Hawks get, I believe, a 4th-round pick, and they retain 50% of Rantanen's salary. Very interesting, crazy trade. Going to be good for both teams, I think, Chicago and Carolina. Obviously, the quick benefit probably goes to Carolina because Rantanen's such a great player. And the Avalanche knew they were more likely going to re-sign him. Although it's been weird hearing his comments that he was willing to negotiate and work with them, and they just got rid of him, which kind of is unfortunate to hear that. And it seems like more of a panic trade. I mean, it's worked out well so far for both teams. Necas has looked good in Colorado, and he's gotten on the score sheet already a few times with assists. And Rantanen already had a couple points. Drury got a goal for the Avs yesterday. Your quick thoughts on this trade? What do you
I
feel?
was totally taken aback. Like, there's been some trades in the NHL, and I go back to the Wayne Gretzky trade, but that happened after the season was over. Kind of the same situation.
There's some of those trades that just not catch you off guard, but like catch you off guard. Like, okay, I was like that with the Carlson trade when we got him. Like, holy,
Yeah,
like that's a big name. And
because
that's
Carlson was a 100-point guy, and then he gets traded from San Jose, but this Rantanen trade and Taylor Hall, that totally took me by surprise. I don't understand Chicago's part of it. I understand Taylor Hall going to Carolina, but I don't understand just getting a draft pick and taking 50% of Rantanen's salary. I don't know what that's going to do for Chicago. Chicago is the big losers here. I think Carolina is the big winner.
Oh, yeah.
Colorado will eventually get to that, but I don't know if like that would be like trading the middle of the season, I guess. Who would that be? Who would you consider being that kind of on the Penguins? Would that be a
well, I mean, for the Penguins?
Yeah. Like who would be like that Brandon type guy
that gets traded?
All of a sudden that gets traded and you don't know really why it happened?
Okay, I mean, regardless of their situation right now, probably like Rust.
Yeah, right.
Because that's a guy that's been very important to the team and doesn't put up the big numbers like Rantanen, but he's there for a reason. He's there for a reason. He has a big impact on the team. Like for you guys, that in my opinion is probably like, honestly, for what he was to Colorado, probably like Draisaitl getting traded mid-season and just like no expectation of that happening. Again, kind of crazy to hear his comments about it after that. He didn't expect it either, that there was little to no conversation about re-signing, but he was willing to kind of negotiate. However, I do feel like he wanted a bit more than what the Avs were willing to give him, but I think that's a guy you're willing to maybe get rid of somebody to keep because he has proved himself. He's a Stanley Cup champion, and now he's going to a team that's knocking on the door, looking to break it through finally.
Well, like
and even Taylor Hall.
Yeah.
You know what? He gets to kind of somewhat revitalize his career. He's been a pretty okay player, but he gets to join a team that he can have a big impact on, being a bottom six guy. And, you know, it's same for Colorado. They get two guys that are younger, that are hungry, that want to play, and they're great players. And it benefits both teams immediately. Obviously benefits Carolina more, but long-term probably benefits Colorado because it's not certain if Rantanen's going to re-sign there in Carolina. It would be interesting if he didn't, because it'd be back-to-back years. They get a big fish and doesn't re-sign. The Gensel trade, they didn't re-sign him. And then with Rantanen, but I still feel like they'll get that done. But a crazy trade, I mean, on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening, wacky day, nothing, no rumors of it going around. No one saw anything about it. And then all of a sudden, just boom,
here it is. Want to say hi to Orlando and Thomas watching us here on Facebook Live. Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
You did. I didn't expect that.
No, but you know what? Good for both teams.
Yeah.
Again, I'd be shocked if Carolina doesn't win the East now, because but you never know. I mean, there's a long season ahead, but still, great trade for both teams, and definitely one of the biggest news of the week. You have any other comments or things that you want to talk about with that?
With the trade? No, I think I'll never understand Chicago's part of it. I don't understand not getting.
The only thing I could think of them is trying to hit like the cap or like the cap floor. Some teams do that where they just, for whatever reason, and they can just offload this caps. Like they re-sign these guys for like 1-year deals for at a ridiculous price, and somebody's willing to take a bargain on it and buy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll never understand it either. I'm not a big like guy to look into like the specifics of like those things, but just like looking at it on paper doesn't make sense. But I can kind of understand if they're just trying to reach a certain level.
Yeah.
The one thing I really wanted to talk about, since we're kind of past the trade, great trade for both teams again, is what discourse is going on in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Wow.
Right,
you know, last year they came on, they were the Pacific Division champions, 109 something points or something like that. And this year it's like the bottom has fell. You had the coach of the year and Rick Tocchet, a great guy. I worked with him actually a little bit.
He's a Stanley Cup champion.
He's a Stanley Cup champion
and a coach.
Yeah. I worked with him when he was in Phoenix. He'd come on and would do one of the shows that I produced. A great guy, coach of the year. And now the JT Miller thing. And
Oh.
now there's a rift. They're saying there's a rift between Elias Peterson and JT Miller. And it's just it's like a cancer for the Canucks. It's
Well,
like,
you know what's crazy? Did you see that their GM, Jim Rutherford, confirmed it, that there is?
yeah.
And so now that that's been put out there by your general manager, media is asking nonstop about it. There's just a whole big rift going on there.
Look, I don't have my phone out, but Vancouver may not make the playoffs this year. They're behind Calgary in the Pacific Division. Like I think Calgary's in that second spot.
It's
in the wild
It's
card.
just crazy. I mean, it's crazy watching it unfold. There's almost like a new thing coming out about it every day. And there's just major discourse going on there. You can see that team have a massive shakeup to it.
And I looked at the team the last week or so because the Oilers played them twice. In the McDavid game, and then the game that the Oilers won 6-2. And I look at the Canucks and I looked at how dominant they were over the Oilers and a lot of teams last year, except for in the playoffs. And then this year, they're just like a complete. It's like that was a fluke. I'm a believer that Vancouver was just a fluke.
Let me ask you this: what do you think is the problem? What do you think?
JT Miller, for some reason, has got a chip on his shoulder about something. I don't know what it is. I think Rick Tocchet is a great coach, and I think he's the perfect coach when he came in to the Canucks. But I think I honestly, JT Miller is the cancer in that group. There's you always hear about a player that causes problems in the locker room. He may be a great player, and JT Miller is a great player. But if he's having rifts with teammates, it's going to bring the whole team down. I think Vancouver was a one and done. I think they're going to have to do some kind of rebuilding because the players that they have now, look, Thatcher Demko didn't look like Thatcher Demko.
And it's unfortunate because that injury, I think, is going to be the one that derails his career because that's a big injury.
Yeah.
And he's just, he's not the same anymore. No. Pedersen's not looked himself at all for what he makes. He's not playing good.
He's to me never lived up to the hype.
No,
he's never lived up to the hype. And you got the only guy you got is Hughes, really, that is
meeting his expectations, if not exceeding.
That's so you can't win a lot of hockey games when your top player and top scorer is your defenseman.
Yeah. And I mean,
there's some
I think that's if you look at all the teams in the league, regardless of where you're at in the standings, I think that's the one team you don't want to be a part of right now.
No, like I'm trying to think of teams in the past where they've had that problem, and
I can't really think.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe Miles is also joining us. Maybe you guys can help us out. Like, what team in the last 10, 15 years has had like this kind of a problem that Vancouver's having?
And you get it the occasional times where like, okay, teammates will get into fights at practice, but that's like a one-time thing. This has been going on for like weeks. And it's just like constant reports coming out. But now that you have a general manager of the hockey team confirming that this is true, that definitely shuts down all the things that media is just making all this up. They're not making it up. No. It is being confirmed by the manager who is literally with the team all the time.
So, okay, now my question to you is, why would the general manager even do that? Why bring it out in the public?
I mean, I hate to because now that's going to screw everything up trying to get rid. You know what? Who's going to want to take that? Who's going to want to take on that and be like this guy does not get along with his teammates for whatever reason. You're going to see, I think, a massive shakeup at the trade deadline. Vancouver, you know what? I could see them really selling low just to get rid of people.
Yep.
So if they can get rid of JT Miller or whoever for maybe not as much as he should get, just to start fresh, I think they might do that. So some teams might be able to get a good package. And I mean, he's a great player that could fit with another team. He's just not fitting in with Vancouver. It seems like he seems to be in the middle of it.
I think maybe a change of scenery for JT would be
a good thing. Because he can be a great player for a good team, but it's not going to be the Canucks, I don't think, anymore.
A couple other things while we're still in the NHL. Logan Thompson signs a 6-year deal
Have you
with the
seen
Capitals.
his numbers,
Yeah.
Dad? He might be a dark horse. I hate even saying dark horse candidate for the Vezina.
Mhm.
I think, okay, I'm not sure if he played last night against Calgary, but if he did, he would be 23-2-3 on the season. That's hard to
Yeah.
say that he can't be in contention for Vezina. He might, but good for him. He got the money he deserves. I think it was like 5.25 or 5.85 million.
And it's so funny because when he was the number one guy in Vegas, and then
Aiden Hill.
the year that they went and won the cup, Aiden Hill, he got hurt, and Aiden Hill took over and became their number one goalie. And then Thompson goes to Washington, and he's doing great with them.
Kaprizov out for 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Oh, I got to talk about this. Did you see that play last night in the Dallas game? With
Oh,
Mark
that was
Stone?
so dirty. It was just like, are you kidding me? Like
Yeah.
I was watching the highlights, and all of a sudden you hear
Like
I can't believe he did that.
Ray Ferraro got mad. Well,
Oh.
I mean, okay, he got tripped barely, and he's falling down. And as he's falling down, he literally dives into Hiskinen's knee.
You know, and I think he's out for a bit.
Oh, for sure. That didn't look good.
That could end his season.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's
that
what do you like? Okay, NHL, you give McDavid a 3-game suspension for that cross check after. What do you do for this?
That should be a big suspension.
That's
crazy.
That's intent to injure.
Yeah, that was bad. I mean, people trying to say he got tripped.
You remember in the playoffs last year, the Rangers?
Oh, Trouba trying to
like go at, and he missed. Thank goodness. But it's the same thing. It's intent to injure. Why would you do that? Like
if Stone just falls down instead of diving, Heiskanen probably gets tripped up still, but he doesn't get his knee pushed into like that. He probably trips his skates over him.
But it's
a joke.
It's a joke. It's the players are a brotherhood. I don't care what sport you're in. The players are a brotherhood. Stuff like that. A lot of that knee-to-knee stuff is unintentional. It's just the way the guys move and stuff.
That wasn't
like
even knee to knee.
That was
shoulder to knee.
So it's like, why would you do that, knowing that that could be you, and somebody doing that?
And
to
this is LTIR champion.
LTIR champions, yeah.
But I mean, come on, like that's ridiculous. You should. Yeah. That's not hockey. Come on.
That is. I saw that, and it was.
But I want to see if the league does anything about that. They probably won't, but that should be definitely suspendable.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else. Oh, we got the Four Nations coming up here. That's going to start. Is it next week?
The 8th.
The 8th. So that's next week.
Did you see Markstrom's out for the tournament? He can't play.
Is he out?
He is out for the tournament. He has been replaced by Ersson from Philadelphia. He cannot play for the tournament because of his injury he sustained last week. So big blow to Team Sweden.
Oh, I know it was Pietrangelo that is out.
Pietrangelo, yeah, he can't. He's not going to play.
So that leaves the space open on Team Canada. For who?
Sorry, Dad. It's not going to be Bouchard. I'm sorry.
No.
Too much of a defensive liability. I feel like for what he just.
Do you put another forward on there?
I mean, you could, but I don't think you should.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see I remember back in the day in the 70s and 80s, they had the Canada Cup, and it was always it was Canada versus the Soviet Union at the time. This is going to be I'm very excited for this tournament.
I'm really interested to see because I've been seeing all the hype about the Finland-Sweden rivalry.
Yep.
I'm just excited for the games. They're going to be great. Hockey fans are going to miss hockey without the NHL. We'll at least get consistent games on for a while.
It's going to be good games. It's not going to be the All-Star game.
No, but at least like the players have a few days off before and after, I believe they'll have a few days. So, but going to be much must-see TV.
I almost think that they should do next year, and I don't know if this. You have a Team USA, Team Canada, Team the Scandinavian countries, and then Team Europe, so that everybody and can get represented.
The Russians can.
And I know that there's a problem with the Russian players and what's going on in Russia.
It's not them.
Whatnot.
It's not them.
Yeah, and
there's some talented. You could have some great
That
players
could
on
be
that team.
a Russian team would be a great team. The way with all the
I
players
mean, you
that they
got
have.
Bob and Net. You got what Kaprizov's a Russian.
Mhm.
Ovi, Gino. I mean,
Yeah,
golly, there's so many
you
good
got
Russian players
so
in this league.
I'm hoping that
I'm just excited for this
because
tournament.
you get guys like Draisaitl who are going to play in this tournament.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. I mean, I'm just excited. You know what? And it's better than the all-star game format we've been used to. So
better.
I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest news of the week is by far in Vancouver. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, other thing that I put on my post, Utah coming up with a new name.
Yeah.
They're for the next 4 home games going to be deciding, having a fan vote for what their name is going to be this next season. And they have 3 options. I'm going to look those up right now because I totally forgot to keep that picture.
So like before there was about 6, I think there were 6 or 7 names.
Yeah,
that
the big one was the Yeti, and the Yeti has been left off that list because of copyright reasons. So the 3 options that we are going to have, first is staying with the Utah Hockey Club. Second is the Utah Mammoth. And third is the Utah Wasatch. I don't know what that is.
That's got to be just
like
a creature.
And personally, almost out of all those, I almost might like Utah Hockey Club the best.
Yeah. I like, okay, I guess the Yeti. The Yeti is a snow creature type thing, but I understand it's the it's the cooler thing.
It would have been cool if they could have kind of done some kind of spin with the Jazz.
Yeah.
Something related to that. But I mean, you know what? Their color combinations are going to be great. So I'm excited for the logo, but I don't like those names.
No.
But you never know.
But then you think of, maybe you think Mountaineers. I know that there's a college.
Even I would have been cool, like if they could have the Utah Freeze.
Yeah, or something.
That would have been cool.
Because you have the Miami Heat. Why not have the Utah Freeze? Yeah, but we'll see what the fans will vote, and that'll be interesting to see. But
I'm excited though. Their color combinations are really cool in Utah. They're gonna have a good logo.
I hope that it's a good logo. Like the Seattle. I still love the Seattle logo. Is one of my favorites.
That city has done a great job supporting that team in Salt Lake City. Yeah. That those fans are excited for their team. And
I still feel bad that there's no hockey in Phoenix because. Man, I watched.
That's never going to happen.
So many Coyotes games in Phoenix, and enjoyed going to the old Glendale Arena. Well, let's move on. Let's go back. Where's it going backwards? Do you want to start with the week that was for the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Oh boy!
Yeah.
Oh boy! It's just slowly it's
falling. Yeah,
it's just kind of falling off the rails, falling apart. Right now they find themselves last in the division. It's just no bueno. I mean, I'm not even trying to be negative, Nancy. I realistically just don't see them getting out of that. It's just too many teams you got to overcome and not enough time to do it. They've just dropped so many games. It's just too far. They're at this point, they're just too far behind. And
games that they really shouldn't have dropped.
Yeah, I agree. And it's very sad because, you know what? I feel like this team on paper, in my opinion, is when they play the players that they should every night, that they're a better team than they were last year. And they're not going to finish that way. They're going to finish worse. They're going to, barring any kind of big winning streaks, they're probably going to be finishing last in the division because they have so many more games played than everybody else. And again, it's not something I thought I would say this season, but it's true. They've just lost so many games, especially this month. Sorry, I've got spit in my throat, but sorry.
Yeah, I watched bits and pieces of games because it seems like the Penguins play at the same time the Oilers do on the same night.
Yeah,
I watched the game the other night, and I saw, I guess, from the third period on, and they just look defeated. They just look like they're
trying not to lose, instead of winning. And that's you can tell that's how they played that great game against the Kings, and that was like the best game I'd seen them play all season. I was like, great, perfect time. They've got themselves right in a good spot here. An easier schedule out because that was the hardest game of the trip. Well, that in Washington, and they won. They blew them out, and it's like, okay, like you've got easier games here the rest of this. Lock it down. Maybe lose one of them if anything. They just after that just didn't look the same. Just I mean. And every game that you lose and you see other teams winning, because for the most part, the other teams in the race to make the playoffs in the East are winning, and they're just falling down, and it's sad. I mean, you know what? I don't like a lot of things when I watch the team. They're so stubborn with the lineup choices. Mike Sullivan's been so stubborn, like taking guys out of the lineup that shouldn't be in to leave these older veterans that don't do anything every night in the lineup. And it's just frustrating to see, you know, and I'm not, these guys are still good hockey players. Obviously, they're in the NHL, but I watch guys like Matt Nieto, even Nola Chari, and I see what they do in the lineup. I'm like, there's guys like Puljujärvi who should be in that. You can do more than that.
Yeah.
But they're just stubborn. They give these guys that are vets more opportunity than guys that aren't.
It's going to come to the point where it's going to be like, you know what, we're going to get guys out there to give them some time.
And I will say, the guys that are in the farm system actually have been doing really well. The team's actually doing really well. So I'm very optimistic about that. Obviously disappointing that most likely it's looking like there's not going to be playoffs again for this team, as there's kind of dwindling down to the last few seasons. You know, the games themselves last week weren't all that good. They only scored 1 goal a game.
Yeah.
You know, the cherry on top of the Sunday was the San Jose game. I thought we tied that game. Personally, I didn't like that call back because, you know what, it was kicked in by a Shark defender.
Yeah.
Kicked right in the net by a Shark defender.
Yeah. So it wasn't a Penguins player.
It was a Shark defender. And you can just tell it's kind of fallen off the rails. Confidence is at a low for the team. There's still a lot of games left, but again, they got to make up a lot of ground to have any chance, and they got to hope a lot of teams lose. For me personally, yeah, it sucks. I want to see them in the playoffs just once more. I can't bear the thought of thinking that the last playoff game that Sid gets to play or Gino gets to play is the Game 7 loss to the Rangers, because in 2022, because that series was one they dominated so well the first 4 games, even the first like 4.5, because, you know, they win game 1 in triple overtime. What a great game that was, not leading the game the whole time until they won it, getting almost 90 shots in the game. Then they lose game 2. They go home to Pittsburgh 3-4 and score 7 goals in both of those games, win. Then go to MSG in game 5 and take a 2-0 lead. But then in that game 5, Sidney Crosby gets cheap shotted by Trouba in that game and gets knocked out of the game and game 6. They go on to lose that game. They go on to lose game 6 and then lose game 7 in overtime, having a third string goalie and net for the whole series. And they nearly got them.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine that being the last time they play in the playoffs. I realistically don't think it will be. I see sparks of greatness in the team and some youth that's there. It's just not being utilized. They put all these guys that are just doing nothing in the lineup over and over and over again, and it's so frustrating. But for me personally too, it doesn't diminish the hope I have for watching the games. I still love watching the games. I still get excited. Doesn't diminish. Okay, like I'm going back in 3 weeks to Pittsburgh again, even though they're not in a good place. I'm still excited to go see them because, number one, there's still a few more games left before then, but then that's the first games back after the 4 Nations.
Yeah.
So you get a reset, you get a different attitude. Again, you never know, but the chances are very slim. They just need a whole new makeup next season. I think defensively, they've just fallen off the rails. They need to kind of regroup that next year. I think you get rid of some of those veteran guys on there and get some youth in the lineup next season, because I think that could make them a good team. And depending what they do at the trade deadline, because they're going to be sellers most likely, they could get some pieces that will fit in. But it doesn't diminish the hope for me watching the team. I still love watching the games. Yeah. I still love watching them play. I just want to see them win, and they haven't done much of that this season.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm excited for you when you go. What games are you seeing in Pittsburgh?
Oh, they're 2 good ones. First, I get to see the great Chase in person, Alex Ovechkin and the Caps on the Saturday, and then the Sunday, and both TV games. So you know they're going to be highly watched matchups in that. And then on Sunday they play the Rangers. New York Rangers.
Is that an afternoon? No,
both are afternoon games. They're both 3 p.m. starts. So I'm excited nonetheless. Yep. I don't care that the team's not doing very well. They could be in a different spot by then. You don't know, but you get to see the best players in the world. Sid being the best player in the world, in my opinion, over the last 15, 20 years, getting to play OV in person, a guy I haven't seen play live. You might not get that opportunity. Yep. And I mentioned it before. I'm trying to just watch as many of these games live as I can before those guys retire, because you don't get to see them play. And no matter how many great players come through this system, Sid's always going to be my favorite athlete of all time.
Yeah.
And I get to see that person.
Yeah.
Can't beat it. I just want to see this team win some games. And you know what? You never know. They could, if they win like, 15, 20 more games, I'll be happy. But they just got to keep a positive attitude in the room and, just get some pucks in the net. That's all it's going to take. But they've got a couple games going on this week. And while I do that, I'm going to check tonight's score from.
Yeah, because they're playing Utah right now. And I want to say hello to Beth. She's also watching.
They're in Utah. It's currently 0-0 in the first. But, yeah, they play Utah tonight. And then they head back home after their 7-game road trip to play. They play Nashville, and then they play the Devils. So, I mean, tough games for sure. But you never know. Personally, I like the goaltending a lot better. I already feel more confident with like Ned and Blum and Net versus Jari. I think it's just defensively. Sometimes they're just not getting any help, and that's the big key. But I'm not one of those fair weather people. I stick with it no matter how bad. And you know what? And yes, they've won cups when I've been a fan for sure, but they've also had plenty of disappointing times and seasons. And every game I look forward to it, and I'll be excited for to watch the playoffs, whether they're in it or not. And then for October, because it's a brand new season, and you've got still hungry guys there that want to win.
Like I went through the same thing with the Oilers. You get the high of the 5 Stanley Cups in the 80s, and then you get the lows of the late 90s and 2000s, and then now you get the highs again. So it's it's up and down.
I will say, one thing I've seen a lot of people two things I got to talk about with the Penguins, because it's starting to really irritate me. Especially like the spit and chicklets people with Sid saying that he's going to go somewhere else. He's going to get. And he said, how many times he said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. This my loyalty belongs here. That's kind of made me crazy. Another thing that's made me crazy is people really criticizing Kyle Dubas because of how bad the team is doing. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. Some of the guys that he's brought in have done really well. He brought in Glass for basically nothing. Tomasino for nothing. The whole reason this team is where it's at is because of Hextall.
Yeah.
This was a team that won the division in 2020 or 2021. And within 2 years, we're out of the playoffs because of stupid moves that he made. Yeah. Now, Dubas had to come in and kind of clean house a little bit and do what he could, but what are you going to do? Yeah. It's not his fault. He's doing what he can.
You stand by your team no matter what. And it's hockey. It's hockey. We get to watch hockey 6 months out of the year. So, we've been, how many games have we gone to Dallas recently? Last 3 or 4 games, and the Oilers barely score, but it's like, it doesn't matter. Because it's live hockey, it's great atmosphere. Yeah. I'm going to Dallas for the Dallas Philly game here that's coming up in March, and it's just that I can't wait.
Even when I go back for the Pittsburgh game, I don't care. Like, it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. I get to watch my favorite sport live, and I get to go out of town when I get to go to Pittsburgh or when I went to Canada. It's just moments like you don't forget those memories.
No. All right, and as far as the Oilers are concerned, I'll be quick with this one. As of the last podcast, the standings they're 32-15-3, first in the Pacific. Well, technically they're tied with Vegas, who lost in overtime to Dallas last night. So they're tied for first place, but the Oilers have the lead because they've got more wins than Vegas does. The Oilers went 3-1 since the last podcast. Lost to Washington. The first game without McDavid was a tough one, but without McDavid, they still, I thought played well.
They outshot him, but like I told you, Washington defensively has just been so good, and it proved to show.
And then the rematch against Vancouver, that was a blowout 6-2. And then past Saturday, they beat Buffalo 3-2, which people are thinking, well, the Oilers beat Buffalo 3-2, and then they beat Seattle the other night, Monday night 4-2. Okay, so what? A lot of people saying, well, they should beat them 6-2, 7-2.
This is a Buffalo team that just beat Boston 7-2 last night.
So
that's a good team.
And Carson says it all the time. These are professional NHL teams. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if they're the 32nd team or if they're the number 1 team. No. They're professional hockey players. Every game is a tough game to win.
Every NHL team has so many skilled guys. I mean, you look at Buffalo, Tage Thompson, one of the best goal scorers in the league. Yeah. They've got a ton of young, great players down there.
And they're fast.
Yeah.
They're fast.
They're a hungry team. And you know what? The standings don't show up for them. They're great. They're a fun team to watch. They just don't win a lot of games.
And like Seattle is the same way. They're fun to watch too. And
I've liked watching Kakko there. He's, what, gotten a resurgence from being traded.
I like watching San Jose too.
Speaking of Seattle, did you see about Grubauer today?
No,
They waived him.
they waived Grubauer.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they
Why?
did. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know if they're not satisfied with his performance, but they waived him today.
Oh my, geez.
Whoops, I forgot to mention that. But
Whoops. Yeah.
we'll see if he gets claimed by tomorrow.
Leon Draisaitl leads the league in goals, 35, which doesn't surprise me, but kind of surprises me a little bit. I always knew he's a former 50 goal scorer, but he's leading the league by like 5, 6, 7 goals, and he's at the time he was in second place behind McKinnon for the Art Ross. So to me, I'm going to say it. Is this an MVP season for Draisaitl? He had the COVID year, he was the MVP.
God, I still stick to the goalie. He's going to get it.
You think
Yeah.
I don't know, like Draisaitl to me has had probably his best season. He's hard on the puck. When he turns his back to you, you can't get to him. He's just this big.
He just knows how to defend the puck, keep the puck.
Both Pickard and Skinner are looking good. I saw something. Pick is like 9-1-0 in his last 10 games.
Good.
And Stu has had a couple.
That's what you need is reliable tandem.
Yeah, and Stu, even though he had a couple of losses in a row, which he hasn't had back-to-back losses since earlier in the season. But that's what the Oilers need, and it's like I have when I watch the games and I watch Stu in there, I have confidence in Stu. I have a lot of confidence in Pickard playing because he's got that old style.
He's more. I think he's just more like stick to it. And
yeah. So I'm liking that. And Stu Skinner, he wasn't available the other night. They had the backup from the University of Alberta because Stu and his wife had their second child, Darcy, the other night. The Oilers are getting scoring from the bottom six in the defense, which hasn't happened consistently for years and years and years and years and years.
I got to say one word when you speak of bottom six. Mark, because you texted me that and I was like, yes.
He finally got, it's so funny because he said he finally got a goal with a goalie in the net because he had an empty netter. The last goal he got was the only goal the Oilers scored in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and it made it tied.
You know what? He's one of those guys that his contributions not necessarily on the scoreboard, but you could tell.
Like you look at him on the penalty kill, he's a threat. If him and Brown are on the ice, they're a threat to score because they've had so many rushes and they've had so many opportunities shorthanded. So yeah,
I like. He's a great utility piece. Great signing that they kept him up.
Yeah, and when that happened,
you need a Janmark jersey.
Yeah, I think my next jersey might be a Janmark jersey, and then we kind of mentioned maybe somebody's got to replace Peter Angelo on the Four Nations.
It could be Bouchard. It's just depending what they want.
Yeah, I guess. Do they want offense or do they want a defensive defenseman? Because I'm trying to think of who they have offensively. They've got Makar. That's their big offensive guy is Makar. So maybe they're looking for a defensive defenseman.
They could,
but who knows? We'll see. I guess we got a couple of more days to go.
The only thing you can really hinge on too, though, he's a righty.
Yeah,
I saw Uyghur too from Calgary's a possible consideration to get in there. Either way, that's going to be a good team. But we'll see who gets picked up.
Yeah, and then coming up for the Oilers tomorrow, they're at home to Detroit. Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada against Toronto at home. And Tuesday, they're in St. Louis, and then in Chicago, and then at home to Colorado next week on Friday before the Four Nations. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games before the Four Nations. Some good ones in there. So next week we'll have our last podcast before the Four Nations. So we'll take a look a little closer at the Four Nations tournament when we get to our show next week.
Might still have to do some stuff during it too, though, because we'll be watching it.
Yeah, so that's all coming up, and that's going to be it for us today. We're going to be back on Tuesdays next week, 5:45 Central Time, just before somebody goes and tears up the bowling lanes over there at Astro Bowl here in San Antonio. We're going to be tomorrow. You can catch us. You can catch this on Facebook. It'll be ready to go here in a little bit. Tomorrow, you'll be able to get it on the Refocused Radio Network, our YouTube show
Spreaker.
and on Spreaker.com. And we'll be back again, like I said, next Tuesday, 5:45 Central Time for the Best Boys Center Ice podcast. And in the meantime, and in between time, everybody have a great hockey. He doesn't even wait.
You just crack yourself up with that one.
You don't even wait. You just walk away while I'm saying it. Good night, everybody. We had a lot of people on tonight.